Welcome to Anxiety is Real, the one-of-a-kind podcast that takes all of the successful components of individual counseling specifically for anxiety disorders and creates a 10-session podcast model assisting children and adults in understanding and managing their anxiety effectively. This podcast was specifically designed by anxiety specialist and licensed therapist Chris Smedick, who with over 12 years of license experience and over 20 years of field experience has successfully helped hundreds of children and adults overcome their anxiety by utilizing this specially designed program. Now, without further ado, please welcome the host of Anxiety is Real, Chris Smedick.
Welcome to this week's episode of Anxiety is Real. Thank you for joining us today. We are happy to have you with us today to learn about anxiety and to talk about graduation. This is episode 10, and we're happy that you've joined us today and talk about all the things that you've learned. Today, we're going to talk about graduating. When we say graduation, we're talking about, applying what you've learned, from listening to all these episodes and really having a deep understanding of how to, manage anxiety, how to be aware of anxiety, and how to move through it, most importantly, in your lifelong journey for peace, success, happiness, and good times. So with that, we're happy that you've joined us, and we're also happy that you're going to have an opportunity to graduate, from anxiety and learn how to be a master kick-butt artist at managing your anxiety. My name is Chris Smedick, and I'm a licensed therapist with over 10,000 hours of specialized experience training in life and anxiety. I'm a co-owner and therapist for Genuine Counseling, and my wife and I opened Genuine Counseling back in 2009 to assist individuals when helping them achieve their goals and, manage their feelings and, really help them, assist them on their road to greatness. Very excited today because we have another special guest with us. If you've listened to the last episodes, no disrespect, but sorry, Mr. Jeremy, my favorite person of all time, co-hosted with us three episodes. Of course, that was Jody, my wife, but right up there with my wife,
Really?
Not that high. A couple notches below my wife.
I was going to say he's doing good.
Yeah, well, he is.
I didn't know you felt that way about me, Greg.
and with that,
somebody's on the Christmas list.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Jeremy Massey, licensed professional counselor. He's an awesome counselor, and with that, we're happy to have him come to the table today to talk about his understanding, with anxiety. So, Jeremy, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
Our pleasure. And, with that, we're going to get started, with our feet hitting the ground, running right off the bat, because we have a lot to talk about that goes into this graduation. Jeremy and I have worked together for a couple of years now, and we do have graduations at our office. When somebody has successfully met their goals, man, it is a party. You like that?
Oh, yeah. Graduations are the best.
What do you like about them, Jeremy?
Well, it's an opportunity to celebrate success. Anytime you have an opportunity to be a part of or witness to somebody achieving goals to improve their quality of life, that's a celebration in and of itself. And while some may not see it as a big deal, it's a huge deal when you've been a part of that process. And just to see the looks on their faces, and all that they have accomplished when you start talking about where they were when they came in and talk about the transition they've made, it's huge. It is really awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Great feedback. And, with that, talking about taking individuals and being, blessed to be part of that process from the time that they came in, to where, they go. That's what we want you to think about. When you first started listening to these podcasts, where you were. Remember, we'll talk about it. We had you evaluate and rate, what was your number? Okay. And with that, at the beginning, we said, well, first of all, how was your day going? We got to do a check-in formally. Jeremy, how's your day going, 1 to 10?
I think I'm at a 10 today, Chris.
Man, that's what's up.
I think I'm at a 10. I found out I was one of your favorite people. I was right behind your wife. I mean, who could have a better day than that?
Absolutely. If that's all it takes, Jeremy, I'll be texting you, man. You just have a 10-day any way that I can help you with that. So thanks again for joining us. In all seriousness, whenever we have someone come in and I'm doing the check-in, and we were talking to this before the show started, Marcus, and they tell me their day was a 10. You know what I tell them?
What's that?
We're all done here. Even at the beginning, because I'm not messing with that. I'm not going to try.
It's a 10.
We're done here.
If you come in as a 10, there's nowhere to go.
There's no.
Shut the computer down. Yeah.
Great
Turn the phone off.
Great work. Keep doing what you're doing.
It's working.
It's working. So thanks for checking in. Thanks for joining us again, Jeremy.
That's good.
Marcus, what's your number today?
Oh man, it's a great 8, but you know what? That 8 is getting stronger and stronger. We might end with a 9, man. Yeah,
wow.
Definitely.
I hope you get there. And thank you for coming again. And thanks for all your help and assistance and feedback as well. So today's show, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a couple areas. We're going to try to get to the point we've been making over and over again. If you've listened from session 1, podcast 1, you've heard this crazy notion. I mean, crazy, that anxiety is normal. And, here we are sitting at session 10. If you've listened to all these podcasts, you've probably heard us say it probably over 20 times at this point. And we do that, and we do it for a reason. We want you to know that anxiety is a normal feeling that everybody has, which leads us to the next point that we want to review and really hammer, which is, how high is your anxiety? What is your number? Why is it important to know your number? And what's your feedback off of that, Jeremy, on why it's important or if it's important to know how high your anxiety is?
I think it's definitely important to be able to gauge your anxiety. Typically, if you're able to kind of give it a number, that's also a cue to yourself that, hey, maybe I need to do something. Maybe something needs to happen. Maybe I need to be a little more active in managing this anxiety. And I agree 100%, Chris. Anxiety is normal. When you are supposed to feel uncomfortable in some situations, because some situations are just uncomfortable, and you should just feel that way.
You sound like you're speaking from experience on that.
Yes, I am.
Absolutely. And we've all been there, and that.
I mean, but having a number, knowing your number, that gives you a bar, that gives you a point of reference, and being able to identify a point of reference that helps you understand where you're at in the whole scheme of things in terms of managing that anxiety. So I think that's very important to be able to identify that number.
Yeah, great feedback, and thank you for sharing that as well, which leads us to our next really big point when we're talking about a review and helping you review and be successful in passing your test, because we want you to be able to say, and you did this, you graduated, and you have a really good grasp and an understanding on, number one, what is anxiety, understanding, how it can impact you, understanding your number, and what you can do with that number, as Jeremy was saying, finding ways to deal with that effectively, for yourself. And that goes with, identifying those coping skills. You were asked to do, that list of 10 healthy coping skills for homework points that will be used, okay? We want you to really go after that because there are ways of using those coping skills as a way to take care of yourself and to manage that anxiety effectively, which is why we coined that term, a CSU number. And what is a CSU number is, if you remember, in the earlier podcast, we talked about coping skill utilization number, which means 1 to 10, how high or, how effectively are you managing that anxiety? And that number you want to have as high as possible, because the higher that number is, okay, the lower your anxiety number is going to be. When people typically access counseling, you want to remember this. This is a good review for you guys to understand, in order to manage and keep that number low. Traditionally, individuals coming in for anxiety disorders in counseling, in my experiences, their anxiety number is through the roof. It's higher, and it's been high for a long period of time. Okay. And the coping skills utilization number is always very, very, very low. And essentially what that means is they are not taking care of themselves, and you're not taking care of yourself as good as you can. So we want to review that, because that is going to be the most paramount two numbers that you can have. As long as your CSU number is higher than your anxiety, in my opinion, you are always going to be effectively moving through not just your feelings of anxiety, but depression, all these different feelings that can be really, really challenging. So we're going to review that. That will be on your test. We're also going to talk about ways that you can help your children in being aware and understanding their anxiety. We're going to talk also, just to review, about a cognitive shift. What that is. We coined that term because a lot of times what we see is individuals come in and, they are focused on things that are out of their control. And with that can be very comprehensive, and it increases individuals' anxiety. So a cognitive shift, we're going to talk about what that is and how to apply that to keep your number, lower. Because, one of the things, and Jeremy, I don't know about you, but coping skills don't necessarily all have to be about exercising and going to the gym.
Right. Coping skills, just in my experience, are only effective if you're going to use it. So if you come into our office and I give you a list of 20 different coping skills, that may or may not be helpful. But if you're able to sit down and talk about what helps you relax, what helps you calm down, if you're able to talk about things that you're more likely to engage in, that's a whole lot helpful than just coming in and getting a list of.
So you're saying essentially that my list isn't going to work with you?
It may or may not.
Okay.
It may or may not. Sometimes we're always open for suggestions. Sometimes you need a starting point. Sometimes you need a launching pad. But a lot of times, I think a lot of people already knows what calms themselves
what
down.
What do you use to calm yourself down, coping skill wise? What would you say your top, not top 5, but just your, 3 that you go after?
Exercise. I do exercise.
How's that feel after you do it?
Feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. I exercise, spending time with my family, spending time doing some civic, some things in the community with part of a couple of civic organizations. So kind of giving back, that helps. Those are some of the things that I use to kind of keep my numbers down.
And you traditionally, knowing you, if I can share some, those are things that you're actively engaged in. Those are choices that seemingly that you don't even, they're second nature, so to speak, to where you don't have to tell yourself that you're going to be doing a church function.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And my take on it, Chris, is that it's difficult to manage anxiety when it's through the roof.
Sure.
And so the goal is to keep your number down on a consistent basis. A lot of times when our anxiety goes through the roof, sometimes we start making bad choices about how to deal with that anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can keep my number at a moderate level, I'm able to make better choices about how to deal with increased anxiety.
Most definitely. So you guys all get that. That is a powerful point. Managing it effectively, you're able to see clearer is the way that I heard that described. And I think in one of the podcasts, we talked about the analogy that we've heard, different people make. And, the one that I have is, when you're driving down on a busy interstate and you get all this heavy rainstorm coming down, to where you can barely see it on the roadway, and then your windshield wipers stop to work, and you have a couple choices that you can make. Essentially, you can keep going, but the problem with that is, I think you guys all know, you guys are a very wise audience. You drink smart water. You understand that there's going to be pending danger and something bad's going to happen.
Right.
Or, and part of the, the primary purpose of these podcasts is pulling over to the side of the road and kind of reevaluating, what's going on? Why is my anxiety so high?
Right.
How long's it been that way? And with that, keeping it low is what it's all about. In fact, they have terms for it: mindfulness, advanced mindfulness. And that's where you see those individuals, seemingly floating to the gym. I call them kind of like Yoda individuals. They got their yoga mats. Yeah. And it's kind of like they're smiling at everybody and they're like,
they're happy.
Happy. And they seemingly know something that the rest of us don't know all the time. And I think there's a big piece of that they're really focused on, number one, what they have control over.
Right.
And also on taking care of themselves.
You know what, Chris? I absolutely love that example that you gave about driving through the rain. I know one of the things that has really helped me, even in doing these sessions with you, part technician and you bringing me in as a co-host at times. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it more.
The education level has been great, man. And I think one of the biggest things for me has been awareness. Because I'm the guy that's driving through the rain, right? And it's not pouring down yet, but it's raining. But I don't even have my wipers on because I have tunnel vision. So I don't, my wife is over there going crazy because she can't see anything.
Absolutely.
And she's like, dude, what is wrong with you? What is going on? And it's like, I'm completely unaware that this thing is just gradually becoming a problem,
right.
But now I have the ability to be able to see, okay, there's some drops falling. I need to manage this thing before it gets out of hand and becomes something bigger than what it has to become.
Right.
Yeah, that's really great awareness. Yeah. And I'm glad that you have that understanding and that awareness. And once again, the challenges are, where are you learning this from? That's why we were excited to roll out this podcast series because, they're unique. We don't get taught a whole lot about our feelings and how to deal with it, what's normal, what's not normal at school, at the workplace. And with that, we're excited that you guys have taken time to really take care of yourself. And with that, that's why we're so excited to have you here and talking about graduation. So,
and Chris, if I might add, especially as a guy, there's not a whole lot of instruction on how to deal with feelings as a guy.
Really?
The only instruction I got was suck it up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I got that manual as well.
Is it broke?
Did you get it?
Is it broke? Is it bleeding?
Yeah.
Then suck it up.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah, and absolutely. Me and Marcus were talking earlier about the need for more episodes, and there's so many different areas of need when it comes to anxiety. With our moms, there's a special series needed for postpartum depression and anxiety.
You're exactly right.
As well as dads, and my wife was even saying about single dads, the anxiety that comes with it. And then we were talking earlier, me and Marcus were about providership anxiety. Have you ever heard of it?
Providership anxiety.
Yeah. What's it mean to you? It means if I don't hit this Powerball,
it's real.
I gotta go back to work and I gotta find a way to keep making this work and put food on the table for my family.
That's right. That's right.
And I got all these bills coming at me that don't ever stop.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, if you're feeling as a guy that, there's all kinds of components that don't get touched, believe you me, we feel you.
Yeah. And,
with that, you have to take care of yourself. That's the best part about these podcast series is it's not unique to, a gender. It's not unique to a socioeconomic. It's not unique to a race. This is, human issues.
That's right.
And with that, we're glad that you guys joined us. And we want you guys to be prepared to, not just have a great understanding, a great awareness of anxiety, but once again, to be able to manage it effectively from now until the cows come home, and teach your children, how to manage it, because they're going to need to do that. I wish my parents would have, been taught this lessons. I still would be talking to my dad today, I have no doubt. But we have to be that change, y'all. We have to do better at this. So with that, thank you again for joining us. So who's ready for a graduation test? Who is ready to graduate out there? If you've been tuning in and you're ready to go, who is ready? Do you feel like you understand anxiety? Do you understand? Do you feel like you're aware of what it is, of what it does, how it feels? Most importantly, do not take this test. Don't do it. Go back through 1 through 9. Okay, if you do not know with 100% how to move through that anxiety. Okay, in all seriousness, take as much time as you need, because we've given you everything that you've needed from a counselor's perspective. We use this in counseling all the time. Essentially, when we talked about the CBT model in counseling, and we had a great podcast about the influence, the impact of thoughts and feelings, and what we do, the actions. Man, I love that model, and we talked about how it's a continuous model, because it's supposed to reinforce that they're all interrelated.
Right.
When you see that model, and you know which one I'm talking about, Jeremy.
Right.
What do you think that tells us to do, with that?
Well, I think I think, Chris, what it kind of on a basic level is what you take in influences kind of what you feel and how you respond to how you feel. If you're taking on things that are outside of your control, if you're taking those things in, you're going to feel anxious, and you're going to behave in a way that typically with anxiety, avoidance is more than is the prominent symptom.
Which a lot of times is the reason it leads into isolation,
Right.
and hence goes into depression. And we talked about a special episode with that on why it's so challenging. So, that's a great piece of feedback. And, once again, it really encourages us to be aware, of our environment, to be aware of what we're watching on television,
Right.
and what our kids are doing on, on their game systems, on their phones, etc. Most importantly, the reason I like it, that whole model, is because it really encourages me to get my thoughts together. And when I'm talking about these thoughts, we talked about a whole session, a whole podcast about, the power of what you say to yourself, and becoming that self-fulfilling prophecy. If you wake up and say, this is going to be the worst day ever, guess what, y'all? You guys have learned.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen. Now, on the other side of that coin, we talked about how that, if you were planting those seeds, and you were a farmer, what kind of seeds would you plant? Would you plant, seeds that encourage peace, happiness, joy? Or would you, plant seeds of doubt, fear, worry? And this is why I believe anxiety is the number one epidemic, I believe, in our country, is because it's an individual thing. And it's not one thing can take care of, comprehensively a whole, disease or disorder or disease. Okay. So go ahead.
And Chris, just to kind of piggyback off of that, there's so much information that people have access to. And, growing up, there used to, there used to be one or two, three, maybe news stations where you got all of your information from, and they kind of were about the same thing.
Right.
If you watch
right.
one newscast, it was probably the same as as another newscast, the weather, what happened in the town. But now there's so many sources of information. There's so many things that you can take in that can influence your thought and your thought patterns and create those seeds of doubt, that if you don't have a good filter, if you don't understand what to do with those thoughts, it will begin to affect you
Yes.
in a negative way. So this podcast is huge.
Yes, I agree. Definitely. I always say Google needs a guide. Snapchat needs a censor. I mean, you have to have someone to come in and say, wait a minute, let's narrow this down and make sure that this is healthy for you, because there's a lot of stuff out there.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing, y'all. You heard it. There's a lot of stuff out there, and it's got to be, if they're not reviewing it, imagine the rating system on television shows. If there was actually an anxiety rating, for example, one of my favorite shows that me and my wife used to watch, Criminal Minds. We watched it for a couple of years in a row, and we loved the acting. We loved the realness of the drama. But at one point, when we started questioning, our home contractors coming in, because we seen an episode, where the home contract, the dishwasher appliance fixer, so to speak, technician came in, and we were really unsettled because, he was in our home, y'all. He was in our home because we called him there to fix the dishwasher. Something wasn't right. So, at that point, dear Jody bailed me out again. And we had some good discussion about going back to that, setting limits.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Good discussion. Be aware.
Hey, you don't need that to fix the sink. What is that?
Good stuff. All right, here we go, y'all. We're running out of time because you guys have all done a great job. And once again, thank you, Jeremy, for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great to have you. So here is the test. Okay, we're going to throw out some questions to you, and we want you to do your best on it. And these are probably questions you've heard before, so you guys are going to be prepared. You're going to do great. So number one is name 10 healthy coping skills that you can use to manage anxiety. Okay, so list 10 healthy coping skills that you can use to manage anxiety. Number two, name 3 things that you have control over. Jeremy, what do you have control over? Give us one thing that you think about.
I can control how I respond to people and situations.
Yeah, that's a good one. Pretty powerful one these days. Awesome. Marcus, what do you got?
I've learned that I can do something about my thinking, about my thoughts.
That's a good one, too. I'm not even going to go after those two. Those were 2 really good ones. So glad I asked you guys first. Number 3.
I'm glad to go first.
Great job. Bonus points. Number 3, name 1 thing that you don't have control over. Number 4, true or false, anxiety is normal. I'll read that again. Number 4, true or false, anxiety is normal. Okay. Number 5, what is a cognitive shift? Number 6, how do you apply a cognitive shift to reduce your anxiety? Number 7, what is your anxiety number? 1 to 10. Number 8, don't worry, y'all, there's only 48 more questions. What are you guys laughing about? I got 48 questions over here. I got so many questions. No, I'm just kidding, y'all. It's okay. It's all right. We'll get you out of here sometime tonight. What is a CSU number, and what can it tell you about how well you're managing your anxiety? And we talked about that in the review, as Mr. Jeremy had indicated very well with some great feedback. That's the coping skill utilization number. What is that number? And then number 9 is, what is your actual CSU number? And number 10, true or false, anxiety is normal. Was that on the, did we already have that one on there?
I thought I might have heard it, but it's worth hearing again.
Okay, let's keep it on there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, let's keep it on there. Okay. Name 2 strategies that you can use to help your child manage their anxiety. And that is all the question. Actually, here's another one. I did not list this one, but drinking, true or false, drinking smart water makes you smart. All right, and then a follow-up question is, it is actually the belief itself that makes you smart, not the water. True or false? Okay, and then write your answers down. And, we will have another session to go over those questions and the answers. And then if you answered them correctly, and you have enough bonus points from doing all your homework assignments, then you will qualify for a graduation certificate. And man, if you can do that, congratulations. You've all done a great job. We've enjoyed having you. And we appreciate you taking time to take care of yourself, because you're going to need it to take care of others. So with that, we would like to thank our sponsors today, Genuine Counseling, for hosting this segment. And Genuine Counseling is accepting new patients, and if you mention anxiety is real, by January 1st, 2019, you'll receive $25 off your first visit. Thank you for joining us today. It was a great special show for many, many reasons. We hope you've learned a lot about yourself, about anxiety, and we wish you, continued heightened awareness, great self-care, and all the success and happiness that comes with it. Until next time, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode of Anxiety is Real. We'd like to thank our sponsors, OPay Media Group and Genuine Counseling Services. Genuine Counseling Services would love to connect with you and help further assist you in your anxiety goals. Please reach out to them at www.genuinecounselingservice.com. That's genuinecounselingservice.com. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Until next time, we wish you a great week filled with heightened awareness, great self-care, and all the success and happiness that comes with it.